So you want to know more about write-offs in real estate? Well, this is the video for you. Today I'm going to go over depreciation in real estate. Hi, my name is Matt Coach. I created this YouTube channel to share the tips, tricks, and mistakes on my way to building a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio. And today, this Finance Friday, we're going to go over depreciation inside real estate, kind of the rules behind it, and how it works out, different options that you have to utilize depreciation for. I should preface this with I am not a CPA. You should take this information as guidelines to go and communicate with CPAs so that you can understand a bit of how these write-offs work, so it's not brand new information when your CPA comes to you. Remember that CPAs are people too. If you don't have a real estate specific CPA, they might not fully understand all the different options for real estate depreciation. So please communicate with them and see what your options are and if these apply to you. Okay, without further ado, let's get it started. Alrighty. So depreciation in real estate. How depreciation works in real estate. Maybe it's a little bit boring for you guys, but this is how CPAs and accountants basically write off stuff. In real estate, this is how people pay 0% or no taxes in real estate legally, is with these depreciation strategies. So it's very important that you guys tune into this and pay some attention to it, because if you ever wondered how people pay no taxes, it's an understanding of depreciation in the real estate world. So we're going to start off. What is depreciation? Depreciation is a tax deduction that deals with a decrease in value of an object over a given time. So you can think of this like basically the IRS decides a certain value, a lifespan that a given item has value for. So when you go to buy that item, they're going to let you deduct that expense over the lifespan of that given asset. So in this example, I have a car. You buy a car for $10,000 and life expectancy is 10 years. So you write off $10,000 over 10 years or $1,000 per year, right? So what they're essentially saying is the IRS is going, hey, this car is going to be good for 10 years. So we're going to let you deduct that expense over that time in even increments. So that's the way that it works. Essentially, they're saying that if you were to sell it after 10 years, it's worth essentially nothing. So that is kind of the expectation or the thought process behind depreciation. So that is just the definition right there, depreciation. There's lots of things that you can depreciate, not just real estate, but that is how depreciation works. Standard depreciation in real estate, there's a few different ways you can do depreciation inside of real estate, but this is the standard way if you don't do anything fancy, and that's a tax deduction allowing you to write off the physical house value over 27 and a half years if it's residential, or 39 years if it's commercial. So commercial property is anything over 4 units or something used for like stores and stuff like that. That's commercial. Your residential is where most people are living, your kind of typical single family homes or duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes. So what it's saying right here is that you're allowed to write off the physical value. So say you buy a single family home for $200,000. The land in the house is worth $35,000, which means the house itself is worth $165,000. So what this is basically telling you guys is that you can't write off the land, but you can write off the physical house. If this is a confusing process for you on how you are writing off a value of a house that you imagine, like a car makes a lot of sense to people, because when you buy a car in 10 years, it's not going to be worth as much. When you buy real estate in 10 years, it's most likely going to be worth more. At least that's our hope. It's not obviously no guarantee in that, but that's the hope. So what depreciation really is that the physical aspect itself is going down in value, right? So if you think about a house, right, like the roof that you get if you put a brand new roof on the house and you wanted to go sell off the parts of that roof. You want to take off that whole roof and go and sell it somewhere, or windows or something like that. If you wanted to take out a window of your house and go and sell it, it's not going to be worth the same amount used essentially as it was new. So that should be like logical enough for you guys to understand. So even though that the house in a whole is at least hopefully going up in value, the individual parts of the house are actually decreasing in value. So that's why the IRS lets you write off individual parts of the real estate, and they really can't, assume that a house is going to go up in value. That's not a guaranteed thing. So they allow you to write off the physical parts of the house. In this specific example, right, $200,000 house, $35,000 of land. You can't write off any of the land, but you can write off that $165,000 physical value of the house. So since it's a residential house, we can write off that $165,000 over 27 and a half years. This is $6,000 per year, so $165,000 divided by 27 and a half, that gives you a $6,000 write-off per year. And what you can do is you can write that off against the rental income that comes from that house. So say, for instance, if that house brings you in $8,000 a year from the rent, you would take that $8,000, you subtract the $6,000 depreciation, and you would only get taxed on $2,000 of rental gain. So that is what's really cool about real estate, is that a lot of this depreciation right here is limiting a lot of your tax liability that you're going to get. But standard depreciation is just what your accountant's going to do if you don't tell them to do anything fancy. But there are ways to create more depreciation than just this. And that would be from a cost segregation study. So this is a tax report on a house that segments the individual components of the property into 5, 15, or 27 and a half year lifespans for residential houses, or 7, 15, 39 year lifespans for commercial houses. So if a thought occurred to you that, hey, probably if I have a brand new house that I put in brand new paint to, it's probably going to need to get painted before 27 and a half years, right? Like you're probably going to paint the house again within that amount of time. So the IRS goes like, okay, if you actually go into the house and look at each individual part of it and declare the different values, right? There's some things like paint or carpet that are going to probably last about 5 years. There's things like windows and cabinets that are going to last closer to 15. And then there's like your roof or your drywall and stuff that's going to be more like 27 and a half years. Actually, drywall is going to be quicker than that. But like your foundation stuff, that's going to be over your 27 and a half years. So that's kind of the different segmentations, right? So you can kind of understand that, not every accountant's going to want to go in there and look at every single part of the house. So they're like, hey, you can just write off the whole thing over 27 and a half years. But the actual proper way to write off a house is through a cost segregation study, which you have to pay some money for. So it's a little unfortunate that kind of the proper way to utilize depreciation you have to pay for, but you move on. Anyways, so same $200,000 house as before with $35,000 worth of land. So you still have that $165,000 of depreciable house. But we're going to change from that 165 going from 27 and a half years to now we're going to do a cost segregation study on the house that gives you the different components of the house. So it's found that the things like the paint, flooring, carpet, things like that that are going to last for 5 years inside the house are valued at $17,500 of that $165,000. So we're breaking down this $165,000 into individual parts. So if you guys don't understand that, just know that you still have this same amount that you're depreciating, but you're doing it in a different way to get more depreciation on the upfront. So then you look at, so for your 5 years stuff, your flooring, your paint, your carpet, you got $17,500. Your things like cabinets and windows are going to last 15 years, and that's $37,500 of value inside the house. And that means that the rest of the house is $165,000 minus $37,517,500. So $110,000 is structural parts of the house. So that's essentially what they're segmenting is things that are part of the physical structure of the house. So things like your electrical or plumbing, things like those physical structural things versus the physical versus the non-structural parts. Basically your aesthetic parts of the house. So those are going to last for 27 and a half years. So now they're like basically 3 separate deductions that's kind of going through instead of the one original deduction over the 27 and a half years. So now you're deducting $17,500 over 5 years. So that means you're getting $3,700 per year for 5 years for write-off. $37,500 over 15 years for $2,500 per year of write-off for 15 years, and then that other $110,000 over 27 and a half years at $4,000 per year. So for your first year, you get all 3, right? So that's going to total to $10,200 per year. From years 5 to 15, you no longer get the 5-year one, so you get $3,700 less dollars, right? So now you're at $6,500 per year. Sorry about that. So now you're able to write $6,500 per year because remember you already used up that $3,700. And then from years 15 to 27 and a half, you're going to lose that extra $2,500 you had over here. So now you're down to just the 27 and a half years, that $4,000 per year for the last 15 to 27 and a half. So you guys need to understand that all of these different things, come with kind of, benefits, costs, and benefits to it. So what you're essentially doing is you're not creating, you're not creating more write-off, right? You're taking this $165,000 still over 27 and a half years. You're just taking it in a different way, right? So you're just taking more on the upfront by doing a cost segregation study and getting less on that, latter half, those last 12 and a half years than you would be if you took it in a normal 27 and a half year standard. Okay. Bonus or accelerated depreciation. So this is a tax rule allowing a portion of eligible assets depreciation schedules to be taken in the first year. So what essentially that's saying is you're breaking down, you can do it with a house, with a car as well. But essentially what the IRS is saying is that instead of taking it over, that whole lifespan that we have, you're just going to take it all in the first year, or at least some sort of portion of it. I think bonus depreciation is 60%, what you can get in the first year. They're trying to pass a bill to get it back to 100%. It used to be 100% 2 years ago. There was an idea to kind of, bring it down, but now they're trying to bring it back. So we'll see. It passed in the House, but we'll see if it gets through the Senate or not. But know that this example that I'm about to tell you is as if you can depreciate all 100% in the first year, and that's not true at this particular point in time. It may be true here shortly, but the concept is still the same, that you're taking a large amount of depreciation up front, an even larger amount. So what do? You buy the same $200,000 house and you perform the cost segregation study like you did before, and then the IRS now allows you to perform bonus depreciation on the items, the non-structural parts of the house. So basically your 5 and 15 year items inside that house, you're going to take the full depreciation of both of those in the first year. So you're taking all $17,500 and all $37,500 in the first year, and now your new depreciation schedule is that $59,000. So you're taking $17,500, $37,500, right? And then your $4,000 that you get every year for 27 and a half years, that's still there. So you get $59,000 for your first year, and then $4,000 per year for the next 26 and a half years after that. So understand that each one of these depreciation methods matter in different spots, and you need to talk to a tax strategist and a CPA to understand if this is of value to you. So you might think it's really cool that you can write off $59,000 in 1 year after buying a house. And with some, basically, if you can qualify, you could use that against some earned income. If you do some tricks that I said last week, would be a real estate professional, or utilizing this house as a short-term rental. But what you need to understand with this is that you're decreasing. So instead of getting $6,000 a year for 27 and a half years, you're now getting $4,000 per year. So you just, for that $59,000 on the upfront, you're taking off $2,000 per year. So understand that there's ebbs and flows, that there's benefits to both thought processes, and this may not actually be in your best interest depending on your schedule and what you can actually write off with that $59,000. So know that this is an option, but not necessarily the best option for you. Please talk with a CPA or tax strategist to see if this is something viable for you. And then you should also understand depreciation recapture. So that is a tax paid back to the IRS upon the sale of a depreciated asset. So if you decide to sell your $200,000 house you bought 3 years ago, $200,000 house, I didn't word this very well, sorry. About 3 years ago, so you're selling the house for $250,000. Let's rewrite this. You bought 3 years ago for $250,000. Right, so the same house. Before the bonus depreciation and everything, you got all the write-offs for it. So you depreciated $67,000 over 3 years, so $59,000 plus $4,000 plus $4,000, right? Because it's been 3 years, you get those $4,000 for those other years. So now upon the sale, the IRS taxes 25% of the $67,000, or $16,750 from the sale. So it may not be in your best interest. This is just a specific example, like if you're trying to sell a house quickly in the next couple years, that bonus depreciation can come back to bite you a bit by costing you more in taxes. So this is kind of something that you should understand, is that depreciation recapture is a real thing. So it's just kind of a thought to keep in mind. Like if you thought, for instance, that hey, my 11-year-old car, I could probably still sell that $10,000 car for a few grand. Well, the IRS is going to take that back in depreciation recapture. So you're not going to basically get out of these things with absolutely zero coming out of pocket. But know that basically the way that taxes tend to work is something that is good in the short term, tends to hinder you in the long term, or come back to bite you in the long term. So make sure that you have a good tax strategy and a good reason for doing each individual one of these things at the time, because you could save money essentially if you did normal depreciation and decided to sell, right? Because you only would have had $6,000. That's only $18,000 that you would have had in this spot instead of $67,000. So again, communicate with your accountant. Understand these processes. Understand it is a little bit complicated, and everyone's situation is a little bit different. But this is how depreciation works. So, at least my understanding as a non-CPA, non-licensed, I do not have a license for this. Please talk to someone with a license. Okay, well, thanks y'all for your time. See y'all later.